How are you doing?
I'm hanging in. Yourself?
Good. I'm glad that we finally got to do this.
Excellent. Me too. Me too. Thanks for your patience.
No problem. So I can just jump around um, in terms of your roles and
Yeah.
career. I know that it's because when you and Tara moved to LA, you tried to pursue on camera first, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That's what we came out here to do originally.
Because it said that your first some of your first credits was a short film called Proper.
Oh wow. Yeah. That was actually back in New York before I even knew Tara.
Oh,
Yeah. It was directed by a friend of mine. Yeah.
and also something called Viva Variety.
Yeah. Viva Variety was a show on, I think, Comedy Central. And it's I mean, if you look at the cast of Viva Variety, like you know all those guys now. They're all, they all started doing sketch comedy together, but now they've all got their own shows pretty much. But yeah, I played a Russian. I played just a Russian like beach blanket bingo type guy. It's
Oh,
it's a long story. I faked my way through that audition by sort of convincing them that I could speak Russian. So
mm. And so when you guys got to LA, were you still kind of getting like minor on camera parts or
yeah, I mean, we were auditioning a lot, and we thought that was sort of the only thing we could do. Like we hadn't thought of voiceover as or voice acting as a thing yet. Which, despite the fact that I grew up watching anime and cartoons and playing video games and so on, like I should have thought of that, but it never really seemed like a. So first of all, in school they never tell you about it, and it didn't seem like a job you could get.
right?
And but Tara suggested, why don't we look into that so that as another alternative to waiting tables and being secretaries and stuff like that. So we did, and we took a class, and the teacher of that class ended up getting a job directing an anime dub for SD Gundam Force,
Yep.
and he started auditioning his students, and I auditioned and got a role on that, and that sort of got me into the dubbing community, which is where I started to take off.
Hmm. And didn't you use like a really funny fake name for that?
Yeah, yeah, yellow lollycup,
Yep.
which is sort of like Yuri Lowenthal, but Lollycup was a boba place near us. Um, yeah, no, just got it. I didn't know any better at the beginning, so so I came up with a cool acting name, and then realized that was silly.
Hmm. I know early on too, there were a couple series that I actually liked that I know were like early roles for you were Marmalade Boy and
Yeah.
Here's Greenwood.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's, I started in dubbing, and once I did one thing, I was introduced to some of the other actors in that community and other people who direct, and they're like, "Hey, I liked working with you, or you've got, good sound. I might want to recommend you for this other job, or, to work with these other people." And so that's how those things started coming about. And yeah, Marmalade Boy, I still have very fond memories um, of that. And that's when that was right about the time, I want to say, I may be wrong, but that was when I first started working with, or right about the time I started working with Studiopolis, who then ended up casting Naruto.
Yep.
So that was, I got into the auditions for that. But yeah.
And regarding Marmalade Boy, I did just because I asked the same question to Wendy Lee and Steve Staley. Did you know Michael Lindsay very well, like up
I
until you
mean,
passed?
I knew him through the community,
Yeah.
but we were not, we didn't hang out really outside of work.
Hmm.
But he was a solid dude, and we miss him.
And so with Sasuke, I know that you've been asked like probably everything that you can be asked, but um, the main question I the main question I had was just what was the through his whole arc, what was the darkest emotional headspace that you had to get yourself into?
I would probably say, I mean, there are two that kind of vie for darkest moments, and one is his relationship with his brother, with Itachi, and the lies, and the deception, and um, so dealing with that with somebody you look up to, and then realizing what sort of, fighting to, avenge your clan for something that happened, and then realizing that what you thought happened was a lie to a certain extent, and having to deal with that, that relationship with him was definitely one. And then of course the relationship with Naruto, which, is complicated because he wants to kill Naruto. He's jealous of Naruto. Naruto is his only real friend. Like all of those things, make for a very complicated relationship. And, him trying, to kill Naruto on numerous occasions, and Naruto keeps coming back and saying, I love you, you're my best friend, is hard for Sasuke. So I think those are probably neck and neck for, like darkest places I had to go with that character for sure.
And could you, as the role progressed and stuff, could you relate to him at all?
Yeah, it was interesting because I think we all, as sort of, happy and good natured as I feel I am in life, we've all got dark places, and it allowed me to, a lot of the roles that I get cast in don't necessarily push me to go there. Oops, sorry about that. Don't necessarily, push me to go there, but this, Sasuke has a really sort of interesting, complicated arc, and allowed me to go to some of those places that I wouldn't normally go for things like that. So yeah, I do. Everybody's got darkness. I don't care how much you smile, and how great your life is, but everybody experiences it in their life, and yeah. So I was able to, even though I would say I'm not a very Sasuke kind of guy, and I don't believe in, that revenge will ever get you anything in life, but that, I still could connect to, to the darkness and sadness that he did feel, betrayal. I mean, I think no matter who you are, you experience that at some point in your life.
Right. And I know there's also been some comparisons with Sasuke and Haseo, but do you really agree with that, or?
Yes and no. I mean, I would say Haseo's, emo boy attitude, or grumpiness, or, whatever, however people are going to term it, comes from a different place. Like, I think they're similar in that they both, in their arc, they grow up a little bit. They learn that the way they're acting at the beginning is not really going to get them anywhere. I would say that, Haseo in a way has a more complete arc, in that he goes from, snotty bratty kid to, hero who, fights for his friends. And I mean, Sasuke sort of does that too, but whereas Haseo sort of goes like this, Sasuke's is like, it's kind of like all over the place, getting there.
Yeah, because both of the series of dot hack games were really impactful and big on me when I was growing up, and I still like them. I think they're really well done.
Yeah, I love them, and I'm glad and super grateful that after so many years they came back,
Yeah.
to remaster and then add some stuff to it. It was, I was not expecting, after that many years to have gone by, for them to come back to it and ask us to do more.
Right. And this is probably obvious, but even with that game, was that also completely recorded individually? Like, you were never with the other cast?
Yeah, yeah. That's always the trick. Most of these are recorded separately, unless you're, on a handful of occasions they've tried to record video games that I've worked on, with various actors in the same room, and it's complicated, and it's hard to do. But now, with more performance capture, with a lot of the actors being, present, for that part of the process as well, we get to do sometimes these games, like when we worked on Spider-Man. We
Yep.
get to do these games, we get to perform them like a play, or like we're shooting a movie. And so you do have the other actors there, and that's really a gift, because, like I said, that you have to, normally we're recording a part, and you just have to do your best, and the director's there to keep it all under control and to make sure you're, it feels like you're talking to the other person, and you're imagining it. And you can make that work. People are great at that. A lot of talented actors, and they make it feel like they're actually talking to the other person. But there is something a little special you get when you are actually talking to another actor, and another person. So yeah.
was really fun for me to with your two roles in Dynasty Warriors. Like it doesn't even sound like you when you're doing Zhang He.
Yes, awesome. I love playing Sensei and Zhang He in Dynasty Warriors, and yeah, when I would do it, it's funny when I would do Zhang He, I would have to like to get into that headspace to get that like I would have to move my arms around a lot. Like I would have to, I'd have to be very demonstrative when I, to
Yeah.
get into his sort of, flowery, dancey, headspace. So I'm glad there was enough room in the booth for me to swing my arms around.
Do you remember? Do you remember your approach to playing Kevin in Xenosaga 3? That's one of my favorite games of all time.
Really? No, that's awesome. I don't really remember my approach per se. I just went in and did it, and everything was there in the script, and we had good direction, and so there was. I don't think I had anything special,
Mhm.
like with Zhang He. So
Yeah.
not every character gets that.
Right. Or with Shadow of Destiny.
Trying to remember if there was anything in particular. No, there were no. It's funny. Certain characters you have to find a thing for, and certain characters are closer to who you are, and you don't necessarily have to come up with a thing to do or special preparation. I don't remember there being anything any special prep that I had to do for Shadow of Destiny.
Mm. And with Persona 3, since you're not only the protagonist, but kind of like the different forms of himself, like Pharos and Ryoji.
Yeah.
How did that work for you?
That was really cool. And it's funny, most people never even bring up Pharos or Ryoji. I think they get sort of a bad rap. They're always like pro tag, pro tag, pro tag.
Hmm.
But it was super fun because they're different. I mean, pro tag obviously in P3 is mostly call outs. But I loved getting to I love getting to play multiple roles within a game or within a world because it challenges me to find something very different about all of them, so that you don't immediately say, "Oh, but that's just the same guy
Hmm.
doing the same thing." I never want that to happen. So even though, and a lot of people say, and they're right, they're like, most of your characters sound the same, and in a way they do. I would argue that most of my characters I use this voice that you're hearing right now. But if the writing is good, then and because the writing will be different from game to game or character to character, then it's like watching an actor in a movie that you've seen 10, 20, 30 other movies. You're not thinking it's the same character.
Right.
So same in with voice acting. If the script is different enough and the script is written well, then you won't think, oh well, that sounds like that other character. It's the same character.
Mhm.
So I have to remind myself that I don't always have to change my voice and make it sound completely different than the character I did before. I just have to remember that it's a different world. It's different writing. It's a that character has a different arc. They have different friends, different circumstances. So hopefully people won't get sick of me anytime
Mhm.
soon. Let's hope. Yeah.
Well, I know with what you just referenced to that, a big example of that, uh, like with good writing and emotion and stuff, is with Gurren Lagann.
Yes. Yes, 100%. As a consumer of anime as well, although not as much recently, but as somebody who used to watch a lot of it and still appreciates it, Gurren Lagann, both from a consumer, a watcher and a fan, and somebody who as an actor, I it's one of the greatest shows I've worked on, just because it has everything. I mean, Gainax is so great with like colors and animation. Just they're it's just so beautiful to look at, and the story is so epic and arc, and all the characters are interesting. It's got everything I want. It's got giant robots. It's got mech suits. It's got an amazing score and this sort of epic fantasy story that it's telling, and it's and I got to when I first auditioned for Simone, they had me audition for younger Simone as well as after, you know, the time jump, after the time skip Simone, who's older, because
Hmm.
they wanted to make sure that we had two distinct versions of that character. And you know, you don't always get to play a younger and an older version of the same character in something. Usually it's just a specific time in that character's life, and that's the character. It doesn't change over time. And so we got to do that too. You know, the only heartbreak, well, there are two heartbreaks for me for Gurren Lagann. One, you know, hopefully, you know, I'm not spoiling anything. Uh, but just in case, for those who are watching have not seen it, there's a Kamina thing, and I did not know that was coming, and so that was like good. And and the other heartbreak is that we never really got to do any more after that. I kind of hope that, you know, a show that good, we would get to do more someday, whether
Right.
that's, you know, an OVA, or, you know, a second season, or, you know, movies or whatever. And I know there has been something since then, but I think, but we never got to do it. Um, on the other hand, if something is really, really good, I would rather just have, you know, like 26 episodes of that and it be done than to have 17 seasons of it, but really it's diminishing returns as you go on. Like the second season was okay, but it wasn't good. The first and the third season, and then they're just milking it at that. I would rather have just one season that was, you know, amazing, and then we move on to something else.
Right.
Uh, so yeah, yeah, no, that's it's truly one of my favorite shows.
It was cool though. I mean, it's from the same studio, but that you got to be in Premiere.
Yeah, yeah. Again, you know, I liked it. It was so it's eye candy. Everything they
Mhm.
do is, you know, so beautiful. I loved watching. You know, I mean, my character is very small in that, but then when I watched it, I was just like, you know, my eyes exploded in the best possible way.
I did want to bring up to a series I don't. I'm, you might have never been asked about that I also really like is Mayor. Your
Oh,
Elvis.
Mayor, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which was, yeah. I mean, that was a long time ago. Um, but and you know, I wish we had gotten more of that too. You know, it's that was super cool. I'm trying to think of the studio that did that had also done something else that I worked, like it had a good look and it was, you know, it was interesting.
Mhm.
Um, but but yeah, it's funny. You never know. Like even the shows you love, you never know where they're going to go after that first little bit. So yeah, Mayor, Mayor.
It was really surprising too that your primary character in Zatch Bell had such an emotional passing.
Yeah, yeah, same. I you know that was also early on with Studiopolis, and I remember not expecting that character to have quite that emotional, because you know from the at the very beginning I'm like, oh okay, I see where this is going, and sort of where it ended up, I was like, "Yeah," you know, it's
Yeah.
you know it's really kind of heartbreaking, and I don't think anybody was expecting that. Thank you for remembering. Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah, you've definitely done your research, Chris.
I guess I can. Well, I can just generally ask if there is anything. If there's like a single anime role that was the most emotionally taxing for you that I haven't brought up yet, or is there something?
I mean, there were some moments for Suzaku and Code Geass
Oh yeah.
uh, that were you know, and it's funny when they don't tell you what's coming and you're sort of experiencing it for the first time in the booth, because they rarely will they send you scripts in advance. You know, you show up and they have the scripts, and so you don't really get to read ahead. And if you know, if I haven't like read the manga for a certain show in advance, I don't know what's coming. And so there were some moments in that took me by surprise. Um, you know, there are obviously the moments in Naruto and Gurren Lagann that I just mentioned. Yeah, I mean that's one of the cool things about anime in general, you know, versus, you know, Western animation. Although I think, you know, it's obviously changed over the years, but from a very young age, I think one of the things that attracted me to watching anime was that they dealt with very sort of, you know, mature emotional themes
Right.
that for some reason, you know, Western animation had tried to, you know, keep kids from feeling big feelings or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it was only natural that I think that that I would come across that stuff as I was working on it as well.
What's the? I guess I'm not sure like what order IMDb is in, but what's like the most recent
Sure.
anime that you've worked on?
I don't know technically what would be the most recent. I mean, Promare would be up there near the top, I think. But there had to have been something since then. I mean, I'm still working on Boruto. I don't know if that counts because I've been playing Sasuke for like 20 years. But yeah, but, we're still working on Boruto for sure.
How did that change? Did it change at all to voicing Sasuke in that? Like his, like how he is in that series in
Yeah,
comparison?
I mean, it is interest. Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, I mean, see, he's that some time has passed for him there too. He's a dad. He's not
Hmm.
a great dad yet, but he's working on it. And his focus is different. I mean, throughout that whole first, I mean, all the way through Shippuden, he had very different goals than he has right now. So I think he's changed quite a bit, and it's been interesting to see that and play that as well.
Hmm. One other thing I wanted to bring up is I'm also a big fan of Kyo Kara Mao.
Yes, that was the first and still one of the only like parts where they came to me and they said I didn't have to audition. They said if you want this, you can have it, and I was like, "Are you kidding? The character's name is the same as my name. I never get to play a character named Yuri. Are you kidding?"
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, and I got to my friend Doug Erholtz was on that show, and like it was that show was just super fun, and I'm sad they never decided to dub the third season because we had so much fun with the first two that I miss it. I miss
It
it.
was great with just you and Mona Marshall being the leads.
Yeah, yeah. Me and Mona, we made a good couple, didn't we? I mean, they got married at some point, didn't they? Sort of. It was kind of by accident, like he didn't know it was happening, but they totally got married.
So I guess I can just like because the way that I like to end every interview I do is just asking what do you want your legacy to be.
Oh man, as I get older, I think more and more about my legacy. I consider myself very fortunate that I've gotten to do this as long as I have, and that I've gotten to play a lot of the roles that I've played. So the legacy is there. I want, and it'll be fun for my son hopefully to grow up and watch some of this stuff that I've done. But if I leave a legacy at all, it's I hope that I've played the types of characters that make people think and feel and feel like being better people themselves in real life.
Mhm. Well, thanks. I'm glad that we finally got to do this.
Me too. Me too. Thanks for your patience and thanks for your relentlessness, Chris.
Yeah.
And
No
thanks for
problem.
your research.
Oh yeah.
Because yeah, yeah. Because trust me, sometimes I get on an interview and it feels like nobody really even knows why I'm there.
Hmm.
So thanks for digging deep on this one.
Yeah, no problem. I'm actually. It's been nice ever since I've been doing this. I've gotten to interview people that haven't even been interviewed before, like Terrence Stone and Julie Madalena, and uh,
Yeah,
surprisingly,
yeah.
Bridget Hoffman's never even been interviewed.
That's crazy to me.
I know.
Wow. All right. Well, thanks again for the time. Thanks for the questions, and let me know when this goes up, and I'm happy to try to help Signal Boost online, social media and whatnot.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I will.
You bet.
Bye.
All right. Take care, Chris. Have a good day.
You too.